Hello guys, and welcome back to another video on the channel covering a Forza 7 tuning guide for what is quite simply one of my most favourite cars to use in S-Class. It is the one, the only SRT Viper 2013 edition, well known for being an absolute beast when it comes to delivering a lot of power, yet still somehow magically having a lot of great turning ability around many tracks. So without further ado, I've had quite a few of you guys request that I actually share some numbers so you guys can get to trying to make the tune yourself. I've already got one tune which is already shared, which is a 1000 horsepower Viper that somehow has 6.0 handling. I know it's looks quite crazy, but yeah, it's just quite amazing. But what I'm going to do is actually show you through numbers for 926 horsepower. This is the type of build that people have used since Forza 6 and Forza 7. So basically 6.1 handling, 9.1 acceleration and a very beastly 8.2 speed. So this is the type of build that you've seen before by the likes of FRF Caesar, THR Lightning, and a few other people as well. Just to put into perspective how good this car is, it can do 146s around Watkins Glen Fall, which is crazy considering that track is really a momentum track and needs grip. It can also do 143s at Watkins Glen Fall alternate, so it's able to carry a lot of momentum through the fast bends and shoot out of the smaller corners as well. So it just makes it an absolutely phenomenal car. There's no other way to put it. So let's tuck right into how do we build this car. First up, what we need to do is go over to the engine swaps. So as you can see, we keep it as a stock powertrain. However, when it comes to aspiration, the best way to go for this car, if you're wanting to have some grip to it, you need to give it the centrifugal supercharger. It's okay to go with the twin turbo, but that's only if you want to go on full blown power and reduce as much of the handling as possible. But I think the best build for this car is pretty much the one that I am showing you here today. So here we are, centrifugal supercharger, and then we'll tuck right into all of the engine parts that we need. So we have a fair bit because we want to put in some power whilst also minimizing the weight of the car. So it's a race intake that we have, then we have stock fuel system, stock ignition, we have race exhaust. As you can see there, it actually saves us quite a lot of pounds, the most of 60 pounds, which that really matters a lot when it comes to the initial acceleration you get whilst exiting corners. Stock camshaft, stock valves, we have a race engine block. Doesn't actually save us any weight, but it allows us to add about 18 horsepower for only 2 PI, so it's actually a really good bargain in terms of building this car. We have race pistons, and then obviously the centrifugal supercharger. So we are going the whole way with the race centrifugal supercharger. For many cars, this is just the best bang for buck when it comes to building cars, especially in A-Class and S-Class. So do bear that in mind. Don't rush to the twin turbo. Always see if the centrifugal supercharger can give you a really good deal. As for the intercooler, we have kept it as stock. On my other build, which has over 1000 horsepower, we did end up actually using the intercooler and the oil and cooling, but they obviously add a lot of weight to the car as well. So do be careful about this. I'd only recommend using these when you want to make a full-on power car. Otherwise, they will be very detrimental when it comes to your overall speed. As for the flywheel, we've kept it as stock. Now we can start moving over to the more interesting areas. Platform and handling is race brakes. Then we have race spring and dampers, race front anti-roll bar, race rear anti-roll bar. Now over to the race roll cage. This is interesting. You can decide to have the roll cage. You can do that. After all, the game does tell you that it benefits somehow. It's not by a decimal point, but apparently it will benefit around corners. But from my personal experience when I've tried the car, we can get away without the roll cage, and hey, it leaves the car a little bit lighter as well, the most of 50 pounds. So you can try what you want there. And then we have the race weight reduction. Drivetrain, we've kept as stock clutch. Transmission, we've kept as stock. I know this is a bit of a surprise to some people, but the truth is some cars in S-Class you can really get away with just keeping it as a stock transmission, because for most of the corners you're not finding that you're having to change gears at very awkward moments, and especially on a track round like Watkins Glen, you can get away with just rev banging the slightest bit as you get down the end of a straight and then approach the braking zone. So we've gone with stock, saves us that 9 PI which we needed. Driveline, we have put on the race driveline because there's no difference in PI despite saving £5, so make sure not to miss that. And then of course the race differential. Over to the tyres and the rims. So tyres we have kept as stock. Front tyre width is increased to 305 and the rear tyre width is increased to 365. So they're actually quite chunky tyres as well, and that really helps deliver a lot of that acceleration that I was talking about. Especially if you're using TCS, you do want tyres that can apply a lot of grip, otherwise you'll just be inducing a lot of wheel spin and then the TCS just tries to bog the car back down. Over to the rims, so pretty much just the very first rim that you see, although you can go for personal preference, but we're just trying to make it as quick and easy as possible for you guys to choose. So it's the FN01R-C, that's what I've gone with. And rim size, I have not changed it. You can do if you want. The benefit of increasing the front rim size is it can often help you when you are on very fast but long bends. So that is the case at some corners. Imagine the first 2 or 3 corners of Watkins Glen, and then you also have a couple of turns at Spa which they're considered long radius corners, and you're taking high speed trying to maintain grip. This can sometimes help with that, but I've chose to avoid it. It still feels very comfortable for me. Aero, we have the race front bumper, and then as you can imagine we have got the race rear wing as well. So that is the build all done and covered. Let's now tuck into the tune itself. So tyre pressure 28.5, 28.5. Gearing is stock, so we cannot change that. Alignment, interesting stuff here, isn't it? Not often that you see camber on the front and rear being exactly the same, but we've gone with minus 0.9 on the front, minus 0.9 on the rear. The reason that I'm doing this is whenever you have the front camber basically at a greater number, it can sometimes mean that the front of the car will swivel more than the rear of the car. For cars that do not require TCS, that's technically a good thing. It's helping the front a bit and to swivel more and technically give you more turning. However, when you're in something that's a bit more speed orientated and you need TCS, this can sometimes mean that the front end swivels too much, and then that triggers the TCS to go off on the rear tyres, and we don't want that. We only want the TCS to be applying basically when we're going in a straight line and having minimal assistance needed. So that's why I've evened out the camber there. Toe 0.0, caster is 7. Anti-roll bars, very stiff as you can see. We've got 34.90 on the front, 40 on the rear. Springs, front is 494, the rear is 526. Ride height is minimum on both, so front is 3.1, the rear is 4.7. Damping, got 12.6 on the front, 12.6 on the rear, and then 1.7 bump on the front, 1.7 bump on the rear. Quite crazy numbers, I know, but on many cars numbers like these seem to just work very well, and that's the case with this Viper. Aero, it's gone full downforce, so the front is 122, the rear is 337. You can get away with it, although sometimes you might find that if there's a bit too much downforce, the faster bends are where you'll suffer some of that oversteer. So feel free to experiment with maybe reducing the downforce on the rear, just a slight bit depending on the track that you're going around. If it's one with many corners, then maybe reduce the downforce just a little bit, but not by much. Otherwise you may end up making that TCS trigger itself, and we don't want that, as I mentioned. Onto the braking, it's personal preference, but you know me, I like to turn a lot whilst going into braking, using a lot of trail braking into turns. So for that we've gone with 47 on the brake balance, and then the braking force pressure is 150. Finally, the differential is 100% on the front, 0% on the rear. Now you can get away with upping the deceleration if you find that the car oversteers a bit too much whilst you are braking and slowing down. But to be honest, I'd rather focus on changing the braking balance to achieve that rather than the differential deceleration setting, because sometimes if you have the decel diff doing too much work, then the car is actually very difficult to continue turning, especially at corners where you purposely need to dive in quite far. So imagine the toe corner around Watkins Glen. You need to be able to dive into that and begin turning as soon as possible. Otherwise the car simply won't wrap around the banking there. And then as for the acceleration, I know that it's a speed car and you might think it needs a bit more support, but if you've got TCS on, then just keep the diff at 100%. Otherwise, if you don't have it on, maybe reduce it closer down to 80 or 70%. But that is the tune and the build all done for you guys. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do like the video, and if you want to see more videos of tuning guides, please comment down below exactly what cars you do want to see in next videos, and I want to make sure that we've got at least 50 likes on this video. Otherwise I'm not gonna post out another tuning guide, because this is a car that I really do love, and I've wanted to keep the tune secret for as long as possible, but quite a few of you have requested it, so I've kind of given into pressure there. But for the next video I want at least 50 likes on this tuning guide, and then I'll be more than happy to share the tuning guide for one of your favorite cars. So whether that's A class, S class, R class, B class, whatever it is, you let me know, and I'll let you know if I've got a tune for it. But other than that, hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Let me know what you think of this car, and I'll see you again in the next video. Thank you, and bye bye.